Good day and welcome. My name is Hannah Nell and I serve as the youth pastor here at Church of the King. Today, I want to invite you to get connected. If it's your first, second, 10th, or 100th time that you are watching COTK online, I want to invite you in the spiritual family. You can do that by filling out the Connect card on our website or using the link down in the description box below. Today, I would also like to say thank you so much for your generosity. I want to thank you for sowing God's kingdom and trusting Him and see what He can do globally and locally. Today, you can give by texting the number available on the screen. You can also use our website or our app.
Well, Happy New Year and welcome to 2025 and to Church of the King. It is great to be with you today. Looking forward to 2025, which is interesting when we say something like that because we really never know what the year or the future is going to hold for us. But I know this. I know that the Lord holds the future and I can trust Him. You know, the foundational verse that the Lord gave me in planning the church was Isaiah 58:12, which says, "Those from among you will rebuild the ancient ruins. You'll raise up the age-old foundations. You will be called the repairer of the breach, the restorer of the streets in which to dwell." And I really feel like 2025 is a year that God's called us to build. In fact, that's the word that He gave me for the year, which is build. And honestly, it has very little to do with buildings. We're renovating buildings right now, or wrapping up renovations, and one just completed another and starting a new build this year. However, my heart for you and my heart for me and my family is that we see God build. We allow God to build in our life. Really, we partner with Him as what He's building. And so my prayer, we can build together. But there's one thing that I've found that has been so powerful and so huge in hearing from the Lord. And that's what we're talking about today. And it's fasting. We're talking about the power of fasting. I am not a techie guy. I'm not completely illiterate when it comes to tech at all. And I understand a lot, but it's just not my thing. But one of the things that I've recognized is that anytime you restart your computer, before you can restart it, it prompts you to shut down the old programs that are still running before you can restart. I know you've probably experienced that. You go to shut down, it says you need to shut down these programs. And I think that there's a principle for us in this season at the beginning of 2025 where fasting applies, because I want you to know that there is a spiritual application where maybe we need to look back at some of the old programs that have been running in the background of our life, and we need to shut those things down. I love what Psalms 46:10 says. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." As I'm recording this, I'm here with Shami, who's pastor over everything. I almost said that matters, but all the tech stuff, and I'm sure that I'm a pain in his side sometimes when it comes to technology. But this I know that he's the one that's making sure that everything's taken care of, that everything's optimized when it comes to technology. But spiritually, we each hold that responsibility in our lives. So when we are still and we know the voice of the Lord, it changes everything. Cannot tell you how many times I brought my computer to Shami, said, "Shami, something's going crazy." And his first response will be, "When was the last time you restarted your computer?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know, it's that simple, isn't it?" Sometimes it is. So this is what I want us to know, that fasting is about shutting your programs down so that God's programs take priority. What do you need to shut down? So, got a few questions. The first one is, why fast? Here's why. Number one, fasting gives you more time for connecting with God in prayer and in worship. That's what fasting does. Why fast? Second thing, fasting expresses our hunger and desire for God to Him. That's why. Okay, first of all, it gives you more time for connecting with Him, but expresses your desire for Him to Him. It lets Him know you are serious. And it really lets you know that you are serious. Here's the third thing. Fasting can release God's supernatural power in your life. I'm telling you that it can, because Jesus' word is true when he said, seek and you'll find, ask and I'm going to answer, knock and I'll open the door. And so many people, they never see the doors open that God has for them because they've not significantly spent time knocking and asking. And Jesus says, knock and I'll open the door. And then he tells the story about there's multiple stories, the parable about the neighbor that had a visitor come over, and he goes to his other neighbor and knocks on his door and says, hey, I need some food to feed people. Like, hey, can I borrow some from you? And the guy won't. And he's like, shut up, I'm asleep. I'll see you tomorrow. But he keeps knocking, keeps knocking. And ultimately, the neighbor opens the door and says, fine, here it is. And Jesus uses that as an example of how we are supposed to pursue him in prayer. Fasting helps us to do that. And when the door opens that we've been knocking on, the door of heaven, supernatural power is released. This is why we should fast. Really simple. It's more time to connect with God in prayer, worship in his presence. It's expressing our hunger to God, and it has the potential to release the supernatural power of God in your life. So how and what do I fast? That's what we're going to talk about today. I want us to look at Isaiah 58. I quoted Isaiah 58:12, which is the foundational verse for our church. But in Isaiah 58, 6 through 9, it talks about fasting. And we're going to read that. It says, Isaiah's, he's speaking on behalf of the Lord. It says, this is the kind of fasting I want. Free those who are wrongly imprisoned. Lighten the burden of those who work for you. Let the oppressed go free and remove the chains that bind people. Share your food with the hungry. Give shelter to the homeless. Give clothes to those who need them. And do not hide from relatives who need your help. It's a tough one, huh? Then your salvation will come like the dawn, and your wounds will quickly heal. Your godliness will lead you forward, and the glory of the Lord will protect you from behind. Then when you call, the Lord will answer. Yes, I am here, he will quickly reply. What are we talking about with fasting? Well, there's 3 aspects of fasting that I want us to talk about. Here's the first one. We need to fast the mental things. Free those who are wrongly imprisoned. That's interesting, isn't it? Who are you keeping a prisoner in your heart and your mind? Who are you holding on to? They are a prisoner in your heart and your mind because you are withholding forgiveness. Let your fast begin with letting those who may have oppressed you, but now you are holding on to those offenses and those hurts, and they may very well be 1,000% legitimate. But if you are holding on to that and you're refusing to forgive, let them free. Forgive them. Go read Matthew 6, what Jesus says about the power of forgiveness and what happens if we refuse to forgive others. And so many people never see the power of God in their life because they are not willing to forgive others. And the very thing that they love, that the Lord has forgiven them, they refuse to extend that to others. And Jesus spoke about this. He spoke about this. I pray that you recognize that the fast that the Lord has for you begins with you releasing those who have hurt and wounded you. And if you have hurt or wounded anyone else, that you go to them penitently and sincerely and ask for their forgiveness. It doesn't matter if they give it to you or not. It's the petition of your heart to be right with the Lord and with them to the best of your ability for both those who have wronged you and those whom you may have wronged. Are you willing to fast the mental things? Lighten the burden of those who work for you. Personally, this is a big deal. This is the aspect of relationship. Personally, relationally, financially, lighten the burden of those who work for you. What does that mean? How you treat others really matters. It really does. Maybe you have a tendency to be harsh, critical, judgmental, gossipy. Give that up. Stop making it about you. All of those are selfish endeavors. Stop. Fast the mental things. It's verse 6. Number 2, it's fasting the physical things. Fasting the physical things. So the first, what do I fast? Well, first we fast the mental things. I need to get my heart right. Receive forgiveness. We all want to do that. I have to extend it. And then give freedom to others who have hurt you and wronged you. And then maybe just go, Lord, I don't need to make it about me. Get rid of every aspect of selfishness in your life. The second thing, fast the physical things. Look at what it says in verse 7. Share your food with the hungry and give shelter to the homeless. Share your food. There's something that happens when you physically deny yourself food. See, this is the aspect of fasting that is really where it originates. Denying your flesh physical food. And I'm going to challenge you to do that. I'm going to challenge you starting on the 12th of January for 3 weeks to physically fast food. Maybe not all food, maybe some food. Maybe you give up carbohydrates, because I love carbs, never met a carb I didn't love. Or maybe you give up specific things that you know that you need to. Maybe you give up your Bluebell ice cream that you love so much. I don't know. But like, what are you willing to give up? But it's not simply in the physical things. What am I willing to give up? And what am I willing to do to be a blessing to others? Look at what it says. Verse 7, share your food with the hungry. See, part of fasting is not simply us saying, well, I'm not going to eat this or that, or I'm not going to drink this or that. It's recognizing that God has called you in this season to rid yourself of you and your physical desires and your mental areas that you need to grow so that you can be a blessing to the people around you. In fact, God's purpose, part of his purpose and plan for you is that you can make the world around you a beautiful place. And you do that through self-sacrifice. And Jesus was the prime example in leading the way of bringing healing and wholeness and love, all at the expense of himself. And this is the essence of fasting. So how and what do we fast? We fast the mental things. We fast the physical things. And here's the third thing. We should be fasting location and comfort. Part of fasting, if you look at what Jesus, we see in Matthew 4 and Luke chapter 4, where Jesus, as soon as he was baptized by John the Baptist, he went into the desert. He changed his location, and it was definitely not a comfortable one. And for 40 days and 40 nights, he didn't eat anything. And so as we look at this, where it says in verse 7, share your food with the hungry, give shelter to the homeless, give clothes to those who need them, don't hide from relatives who need your help. Are you willing to give up your location where you're comfortable? Are you willing to go someplace that might be a little uncomfortable for you so that you can share the blessing that God has given you in your life with those around you? That's why it's saying, share your food, give shelter to the homeless, clothes to those who need them. Don't hide from relatives who need your help. This is about comfort, convenience, and location. Are you willing to go places that you might not be super comfortable with in the name of the Lord to see his kingdom come and share his love with the people around you? Listen, fasting, it's going to give you more time for connecting with the Lord in prayer and worship. It's going to express your hunger to him as your stomach growls because you're giving up your food. It has the potential to really release the power of God, but you've got to allow God to take over your heart, mind, and soul, and you give up those mental things. Extend forgiveness to the people that have wronged you. Be nice to the people that have been ugly to you. Go out of your way to share kindness with people that need that, even if you think they don't. Fast the physical things. That's the mental things. The physical things. Give up the food. I'm not saying you have to go on a full water diet for 21 days. We're doing 21 days of prayer and fasting. But what is it that the Holy Spirit is speaking to you, or you know that you can or should give up? Look, maybe you like that glass of wine in the evening a little too much. Maybe you need to get that up. If you can't do that for 21 days, maybe there's a problem there. What is it that the Lord is putting his finger on? Fast your location and come. Where is it that you're like, I'd never go there? Why don't you go there to show the love of God with someone? So, how do you get started? You ready? Let's turn to Romans chapter 12. Gosh, Romans 12, 1 through 3 is what we're reading. It's so good. We'll start with verse 1. And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Pleading with you, give your bodies to God. This is the essence of fasting. Lord, in heart, mind, soul, spirit, I'm yours. And so we're giving our bodies to the Lord. I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all he has done for you. Let them be a living and a holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him. So how do we get started? Here's number 1. Allow God to search and test you. I'm going to give my body as what does it say? A living and a holy sacrifice. Give your bodies to God because of all he's done for you. Are you allowing him in that to search and to test you? Look at verse 2. Don't copy the behavior and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. Fasting, getting started, like, Lord, search and test me. How do you do that? You stop copying the customs and the behaviors of this world, which says indulge, eat, go, do, be, whatever it is you want to do. But let God transform you into a new person. This is a part of it. Allow God search and test you, changing the way you think. Why? So that you can learn God's will for you. It's good and it's acceptable and perfect. But that living and holy sacrifice is not easy. But something happens when you give up what your body craves, which even your mind craves. When you give that up and you say, I'm not going to eat this, or I'm only eating this, and you cut out the things that you know that the Lord is putting on your heart. My wife has already started. Like but my wife is hardcore. I mean, daily journaling. She's full of journals. She is pretty amazing at all that. She's like, I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, girl, hardcore. I don't know if I can do that. But she knows it's what the Lord's calling her to. And she's allowing God to search and to test her. And I want that for all of us. I'm so excited. I know that you're watching this, if you're watching it on a Sunday when it's broadcast, it's the 5th, but we're not starting this fast until the 12th, because I want you to seek the Lord and to think and to pray and to hear from him about what he is calling you to in this season. And we as a church going on a 21-day journey of prayer and fasting together. What does the Lord have for us? What is the word that he's speaking to you? Your word may not be mine. It may not be Blvd. The verse may not be Isaiah 58:12, but are you allowing him to search you? Are you pushing in and fasting so that you can spend time in prayer with him, so that he knows that you're serious, that you know that you're serious because you're willing to give up the very things that you want? How do you get started? Allow God to search and test you. Here, there's the second thing. Audit yourself honestly. Audit yourself honestly. Because of the privilege and the authority God has given me, this is verse 3, I give each of you this warning. Don't think you are better than you really are. Be honest in your evaluation of yourselves, measuring yourselves by the faith that God has given us. Audit yourself honestly. Are you really living wholeheartedly for the Lord? Are you truly walking in faith? Lord, I don't know what's coming, but I know what you have for me, and I'm trusting you in every area. Here's how you know if you're walking in faith. There's no area of fear that you're living in. When you think of your finances or your relationships or the future or your health, do you have fear? Listen, concern is fine. Like, we can have concern, but fear, oh my gosh, See, that's not a fruit of the Spirit. That's a fruit of this world and a fruit of the enemy. And I want you to honestly audit your heart. Lord, and as I'm doing that, I'm like, Lord, I have so many areas to grow. I may not be who I was, but God, you still got so much work to do in me, so much so that I need to seek you in this season at the beginning of this year, because I don't know what 2025 holds. I have no idea. But Lord, regardless of what it holds, I want to know that I'm going to trust you through all of it. So I'm drawing close to you so I can hear your voice, so you can speak to me. Hindsight's 2020. I went back and read the message that I wrote for the first Sunday in 2020, and it was convicting. I should probably have brought that in here, Shelby, and shared it, because it was just so convicting. Everything that I said, this is what was the very area that we're tested. One of the things that I found was when you push in and you seek the Lord in prayer and in fasting, he answers. And when he speaks, there's always a test. My experience is most of the time, I kind of mess up that first test, I fail it. But there's always another. We have to have faith for the future, regardless of what the past has been. And I want you to seek the Lord. Get started by allowing him to search and test you. Audit yourself honestly. And here's the third thing. Commit and trust to the Lord. Commit and trust in the Lord. So many people, they pray the prayer, Jesus, I surrender my heart and my life to you. I believe you died on that cross for me, that you are the Messiah, and I give my life to you. I trust it's only you that can save me. And they think that's the moment where everything, it's a moment of salvation. And it is, and everything changes. But it's not the end, it's just the beginning. And so, in this season, I'm going to challenge you. 21 days of prayer and fasting, starting on the 12th, it's a Sunday, where we together seek the Lord because we believe that he has something to speak to us so that we can walk in the power that he has for us, so that we can be ready for whatever comes our way, and we walk in the fruit of his Spirit, which is love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness and meekness and self-control. But it begins with committing to him. Let's do that for 2025. Maybe this is you and you need this prayer. Father, I commit to you 2025. This is not my year. Lord, it's yours. I give all of me to you. Father, I believe that you gave your Son in Jesus. On that cross, his blood cleansed me from all sin. His death brings new life to me. And in his resurrection, I'm alive too. So Father, I receive your forgiveness and I commit to you today to follow you, to trust you. And Lord, I'm choosing you. And Lord, I'm sealing my commitment to you today with a fast, a coming fast, where I will every day get up and seek you and serve you in Jesus' name. Amen. Love you guys. Looking forward to this coming year. Whatever it holds, let's walk together with the hand of the one who's holding the future. God bless.